Hello, friends. This is Peter Herbeck. I'm coming to you today from Prešov, Slovakia. I'm in the country giving men's retreats, which I love to do. I want to talk to you today briefly about one of the great spiritual deceptions of our time and the strategy to hopefully expose a little bit the strategy of the enemy. The fundamental battle is over the family, over human identity, but that battle for human identity is really about a battle against the family, warring against the family, and the desire to deconstruct the family for political purposes. So I want to begin just reminding us of, I think I've read this a few times over the years on this YouTube channel, what Sister Lucia Santos from Fatima had received, a revelation from Mary, and to give a message to St. John Paul II. And it was a warning about the battle against the family. And here's what she said. It said, the final battle between the Lord and the reign of Satan will be about marriage and family. Don't be afraid, because anyone who operates for the sanctity of marriage and family will always be contended and opposed in every way, because this is the decisive issue. However, Our Lady has already crushed its head, that is, crushed the head of the serpent. So Pope Francis said this back in 2017. He said the following. He said, today the whole world is at war trying to destroy family, not with arms, but with ideas. The great enemy of marriage today is gender theory, certain ideologies that destroy marriage. And at one point he said that gender theory is demonic. So he's discerning what's going on, something that ostensibly sounds like a caring, compassionate, new look at human relationships and human identity. He's trying to say there's a deep spiritual root to this, where it comes from. So I want to just look at a few examples as a way just to alert us. So there's the fundamental battle, right? It's against the family. A while back in the Catholic Register, Mallory Millett, who's the sister of Kate Millett was one of the founding women in the whole feminist movement. She wrote a book called Sexual Politics back in 1970. The New York Times called it the Bible of Women's Liberation. And when this first group of women were meeting to kind of create the women's liberation movement, Kate Millett invited her sister to come and join them in their apartment in New York for one of their meetings. And here's how Mallory described it. She said, at the beginning of every meeting, there was a period of consciousness raising, and a set of litanies were kind of shouted or, spoken out. And she said it went like something like this. She said, they shouted, why are we here today? To make revolution. How? By destroying the family, by destroying the American patriarch, by taking away his power, by destroying monogamy, by promoting promiscuity, eroticism, prostitution, and homosexuality. She said what she came to understand, looking at her own sister's life, she said this was the plan from the beginning, really to destabilize the family. And the enemy was the patriarch, the defender of the family. And for whatever reasons they were doing it, the goal clearly was to deconstruct the family through the male, through destroying the American patriarch, the father, the defender of the family. And recently, Noelle Mering wrote a fantastic book we've talked about here on our YouTube channel a few times. She was here in town as a guest a while ago for some interviews, called Awake, Not Woke. I encourage you to get the book. It's not a very long book, but it's a tremendously insightful book. And she talks about how the Marxists, the intellectual Marxists, who were very much involved with the whole revolution that was happening, in the early 20th century up through the First, Second World Wars, pushing the Marxist, paradigm of the battle, the economic struggle between the proletariat and the bourgeois, trying to create class struggle that would bring about the overthrow of society and bring about a utopian, everybody's equal kind of world. And it didn't work. And it didn't work for a variety of reasons. But George Lukács, who was part of the Frankfurt School of Marxist scholars, along with Max Horkheimer, Herbert Marcuse, they were focusing on moving from that original paradigm to what you might call cultural Marxism. He said what needed to happen was the focus needed to be on undermining the male in the family because what they experienced in terms of trying to expand Marxism, the obstacles to it was really faith and family. So God, the great patriarch, and the husband, the father of a family, needed to be deconstructed somehow. So here's what Noel Mering mentions and then quotes here from Lukács. It says, for the Frankfurt School, it said the family, the academy, and the culture needed to be the targets of this effort. He said the next revolution would first have to depose the father. Lukács said the authoritarian structure of God and family were the chief obstacles to revolution. If authoritarianism was the subconscious obstacle to revolution, that is the authority of God, the authority of the Father, this was the subconscious obstacle to the success of the revolution. He said the remedy, according to Lukács, was psychoanalysis and the subversion of the father. Making men lecherous would engender suspicion and distrust in their wives, and it would stoke rebellion in their children. Weakening the sexual mores of culture is at the heart of dismantling the family by way of the father. Through sexual coarseness, the father becomes weak and devoid of moral authority. The wife becomes devalued and resentful. The children go cynical and rebellious. Everybody becomes wounded. It was a fundamental strategy. You think about, I'm 65. I think about how much the whole culture began to change. Movies, magazines in the 60s, and we see today the ubiquity of pornography, the amount of temptation that's out there. It was intended, it was structured that way in part to attack the male, right? To weaken his moral character, right? To hopefully get him addicted to sexual perversion, to some sort of action that will undermine his authority, and it'll cause him to lose his voice and his confidence. It also causes the wife to be alienated, to be feeling like somehow she's being used. It's a terrible demonic strategy. And so, and recently, Chris Rufo from Catholic Vote gave a short video talking about the trans movement, and why is it all of a sudden here, and it's everywhere, in the academy and the news and the president of the United States, and everybody's talking about this. Now here you have a real issue, like with the feminist movement, there was real issues of equality that needed to be addressed in some way. Okay, so you take a ostensibly good issue, and then you attach all the desires and the goals of the revolution to that issue, because who wants to resist that issue? It's a little bit like Black Lives Matter when that emerged, and the death of George Floyd. I remember myself, I said, when they said Black Lives Matter, I said, yes, Black Lives Matter. I'm so sick of hearing about these things and the racism that's in the country. We got to do whatever we can, to help this. And then not long after, a friend of mine said, go check out their website. And to check out their website, and they were aggressively pushing the trans issue, LGBTQ stuff, and saying we need to destroy the nuclear family. We need to destroy the traditional family. It was a stated goal. And so here's, again, a really important issue, but people are using the issue for their own ends. It's not just about the issue of dealing with racism. So, again, Chris Rufo's video, he mentions one of the leading thinkers and movers in the whole trans area. Her name is Susan O'Neill Stryker. She's an American professor, historian, author, filmmaker. And she said this, I picked up this quote. She said, "I'm a transsexual and therefore I am a monster. This body is destined to channel its rage and revenge against the naturalized heterosexual order, against traditional family values, and against the hegemonic oppression of nature itself." So the battle here is against nature, and the family, as it's been understood forever, is an expression of that nature, and it has to be destroyed. That's what she said. And here's how Rufo summarized it. He said, "To abolish distinctions of man and woman, to transcend the limitations of established by creation, to hitch the personal struggle of trans individuals to the political struggle of revolution." That's the goal. "All of society must be reorganized to affirm their identities and, more importantly, their politics." So St. Paul said, let no one deceive you. There's more going on in these issues, friends, than just simply, for example, acknowledging, gender dysphoria, which is a real thing, which needs real help, compassion, and understanding. But the reason it's everywhere, the reason it's in our politics, the reason it's being pushed so aggressively that you must support it in everything that's going on, like surgeries for little boys, and you see what's happening in the culture with young children identifying as trans, like 20% or 25%, crazy numbers. They're intentionally creating an environment pushing this to get young people destabilized in their identity. So for whatever reasons they're doing it, this woman basically said hers are political revolution, right? Whatever the reasons might be, underneath it, and what we need to keep in mind, there's a deep spiritual battle going on here, a battle between light and darkness, a battle between the kingdoms. And so you don't let yourself be cornered and to be forced into saluting whatever the culture is saying about these things. Stand on the truth and protect the family, the natural family, God's created order, protected at all costs. I mean, their perspective is all relations are relations of power. Everything's a big power struggle. The family is a social construct. All this male, female, all these identities, all these social roles are nothing more than social constructs to exercise power by some people over other people, right? And so they need to be blown up. They need to be completely deconstructed, and a new revolution would come. So it's important to pay attention to these layers and to remember what Sister Lucia said. The final battle between Christ and the Antichrist is going to be over the family. Why is that so important? Because God established two fundamental things in the earth, two institutions. The family, male and female, he created right at the beginning of creation, and the church. We used to say as the faith goes, so goes the family. But statistically, what we've seen more and more in the last 60 years or so with all the divorce and kind of seeing what's happening to family, it's really comes down to this. It's even more an issue of as the family goes, so goes the faith. You deconstruct the family, there's a very good chance you break up the family, you cause disorder in the family, you lose sight of the meaning of family and male and female and everything that's there. The family's the icon of God. It images the Trinity. It's two people that come in together in love and bringing about life, bringing into existence eternal creatures. It's profoundly important. And whether these people know it or not, who are politically driven, who are broken, hurting, whatever it is, underneath it all is demonic power. There's only two kingdoms, the kingdom of light and the kingdom of darkness. God said, in the Old Testament, I set before you life and death, blessing and a curse. It's going to be one or the other. And our country, the United States and other parts of the West, they think they're moving into freedom. They think they're being the great liberators. They're thinking they're being the great compassionate lovers of humanity. They're leading us into darkness and bondage. We already see the bad fruits of it. It's only going to get worse. So what we need to do, fast, pray, live family life, celebrate traditional family life, right? Live the faith, defend family life, and don't be afraid to stand up and speak the truth in love when the time comes. Don't be intimidated into silence, and don't be intimidated because we're afraid of losing security, finances, whatever, and we're just going to go along with the herd just so everybody leaves us alone. This is a moment to stand for the truth. And if we can't stand for these things as believers, we'll never stand for anything. This is a moment, and the Holy Spirit is here to help us, friends, to speak the truth in love. And if it costs us something, so be it. God bless you, friends.